I'm Nancy Wozny. I write for CultureMap.com and several magazines with the word dance in the title. And I'm delighted to moderate this panel today. This is Jane Weiner, Todd Reynolds. I think you know this lady, Karen Stokes, and Bill Ryan. And they're going to explain more about the work they do in a bit. When Karen called me about moderating this panel, I was really excited because I feel like artists, they talk a lot about their work, but we don't always sometimes hear the story of their work or some of the trials and tribulations, the nuts and bolts of it. I just recently read Jennifer Holman's book, Apollo's Angels. You should all read it. It's like a Russian spy novel. It's just fantastic. And in it tells, and music came from the court, and they came together. So there was a time when someone like Jean-Baptiste Lilly, he was a dancer, a choreographer, and a composer. So there's this long tradition of dance and music being quite united, and the idea that a choreographer would also be a composer is carried on to today with people like Meredith Monk and even Karen Stokes right here on this.
Composer-Choreographer Workshop, they titled it, and they just paired us with the composition department with the dance department, and we created work with different pairings throughout the entire semester, talking about the process. It was incredibly eye-opening for me.
When I was a graduate student 20 years ago, I wanted a vocal score, and I asked one of the musicians at UCLA if she would create me one, and I started going, I want it like this, I want it on this rhythm, and I kind of want a melody like this, and I started to sing it for her, and she goes, why don't you freaking write it, Karen? Because I was way too specific, and I was like, no, I can't do that, I don't write music, but in the end, I really had such a specific idea for some a cappella vocals that I wrote them. They worked well, and then I found myself.
I love working with dance. Gesture and movement. I found a certain way of looking at it, which is not specific, but more connected at the sort of at a very gut and primal level. The feelings associated with movement, and also the happy accidents that can happen between music and dance. The things that all of a sudden work together when you weren't looking for them to work together. And it's at the nexus there that I find it a great degree of.
What happened was I started with Lindsay's solo, which I created the movement and created the music and movement together because we were so mistrusting, and not mistrusting, but it was like our first date, kind of thing. And so, we just wanted it to go really well. And then it was funny to find out, thanks to Mother Nature, it didn't happen. But I think I wish Peter was here to talk about it, but I think he was so moved by being with the dancers. I think to me, it's not really a collaboration unless the musicians and the dancers are all together in the same room. And when that started to happen, I think both Peter and I began to.
I would say, okay, I'm hearing this, and I'll play something, and so on, and he'll like it or not. I'll try something else, and then I'd go home, and I'd make a bunch of stuff, and I'd post it online for him at night, and he'd say, yeah, I like that, or no, I don't. And then the next day, we just do it over.
I wanted him to have a chance to see if how I was working was of any interest.
So when you saw the piece that she did to your music, what
Yeah, there were a couple pieces.
I
was blown away. I mean, it was often when my stuff is done, it's sort of I give permission, and a very small percent will send a video, which if you do read this, the composer really appreciates to see it, right? Rather than just a program.
Right.
We're curious.
Is everyone reading this
Good or
now?
bad.
Send a video.
Good or bad.
Video,
We would love to see it.
Yeah.
And so just to be brought down, I mean, that's all I had to do was sit in the audience. It was a great gig, very fun, low pressure. And I got to see a couple shows of it too. And, it was brilliant. And I thought it worked very, very well with my
We have 6 musicians, which is, and the conductors, that's seven people that will be playing. And if you put that on stage with my 10 dancers, it's too much. It's too much on stage. stage. So
Yeah.
they're going to probably be in the pit too, although we have discussed the possibility of weaving Todd in it as a physical presence, although I'm not married to that, and nobody expect it. It may or may not appear. You'll have to come to the show to
But
see.
he's got that Broadway resume.
Being that this is the first time I've heard of this, I'll be going back on my diet.
So it's about 9 minutes, and the music is about 9 minutes. So I wouldn't have to stop and get up. So that's what she worked with. And then the funny story was, we had the music, and I videotaped her, and he said that the first thing he did was put it in the TV set and turn the music down, because he didn't want that to bother him at all. So he put it in, she had to dance to it because she was just trying to move around, and then he put it in his TV or his computer and turned it down, and then composed to it, and then sent us a score, and we were listening to that, and that changed again. And then, and he left saying, I would have never revisited that piece of music, ever, had you not done that. He said, I just would have let it lay on my album from
That totally resonates with me.
Yeah.
And one thing that I found challenging when we started our dialogue was that it was chicken or egg kind of thing, because I kept saying to Bill, I don't know what the structure is, because that's what I do when I choreograph. I know the structure after it's choreographed. I know the structure. I don't know what the overarching structure is before the overarching structure has appeared to me choreographically in the studio with dancers. And so he was like, yeah, well, that's similar to music, because we don't know what the structure of the music is going to be either until it's completed. And so I was like, well, then how are we going to build this? And neither one of us know exactly what the structure is.
Yeah, we
so I said,
wanna know
okay.
that, yeah.
I said, you know what? Let us approach it a different way. This is a collaboration, so let me propose a structure. And this is a different way of working for me. And I said, what about this structure? And he's like, okay.
The sections, the energy, the arc of the piece, those nuts and bolts things.
The important thing is to get something down,
Yeah.
to get something
Just
out
get-
there, right?
Just get
And
the
so-
machine going. Just
Exactly,
get it
so
going.
whether Karen starts by sending a tape of movement that's
Okay.
only a minute long, or Bill sends a minute's worth of music that says, I'm thinking this.
Okay.
That basis, you can have a conversation and develop. And really, it's not about realizing the first kernel. This stopped me in composition for years. And it was people like Meredith who let me loose from it. Because I looked at all these great composers like Steve Reich, who have a system, who have a structure. And even when Steve would work with a choreographer, it would be like, here's the piece you're going to be using, type of thing. He would write a work, or but I'm more concerned with how something develops rather than realizing the kernel. And I think that this is how their process is going too.
Yeah.
That's the real collaboration. And watching it's collaboration, sorry to be warm and fuzzy, but it's collaboration with the universe too, where it's okay that something develops past your dreams. You're simply the driver of the bus you're on.
What do you expect for musicians, the composers, to know about dancing?
I think for me, Nancy kind of hit the nail on the head at the very beginning, which is that you have to like dance. You have to be engaged with the idea of movement in space somehow. And if you have that as a composer, if you like the idea of these physical bodies moving in space and making music with that, then I think all things are possible then with the collaboration.
And I want to add in about Peter Jones. He's an accompanist to dance, for dance classes, and less dance accompanists. These are amazing musicians that can watch somebody move and make it just a teeny bit faster, a teeny bit slower, and really